No one could have imagined the messenger of the dead star would arrive in such a way. I'll take you to read a book intensively every day. Today I'm bringing you the Supernova Era. Chapter 2. The sun in the night sky and the world's upheaval. It was an ordinary night. The children in Beijing had just finished their homework. Some were watching cartoons. Some were chasing fireflies in the yard. Zheng Chun was reading a story to the baby in her belly. Suddenly, she felt that it was terribly bright outside the window. It wasn't the warm yellow light of street lamps, nor was it the glaring light of lightning. Instead, it was a kind of light, as if the quilt of the universe had been lifted, and the sunlight was directly poured down. She rushed to the window, and saw that the night sky had turned deathly pale. The stars and the moon had been blotted out. The buildings in the distance were like being soaked in milk. Even the cracks in the walls could be seen clearly. What was even stranger was, the light had a weird blue tinge. When it shone on people's faces, their skin showed a cold and ghostly white. "What is this?" a neighbor's child shouted, holding on to the railing, with an unfinished popsicle in his hand. Immediately afterwards, thunder roared. It wasn't the rolling thunder of summer, but like countless gongs being beaten in the sky. It made the window frames buzz. Purple lightning drew crooked lines in the sky, splitting the pale sky into pieces. It looked as if God was losing his temper and tearing up his homework book. "Get inside quickly," Zheng Chun shouted at the top of her voice. She quickly pulled the children in the yard into the house. But how could the children have seen such a scene before? Some were so scared that they cried. Some clapped their hands excitedly instead. "Look, there are fireworks in the sky." At this time, the world had gone into chaos. On the road, drivers suddenly found that all the dashboards were black. The headlights also went out. The cars crashed into each other like blind beetles. In the supermarket, the fluorescent tubes suddenly exploded. People screamed and grabbed things in the dark. It was even worse in the hospital. The electrocardiogram machine suddenly stopped. Doctors held lighters to give first aid to patients. The flames reflected their sweaty faces. The worst was in the sky. In the Mir space station, Commander Volchev was staring at the screen. Suddenly, all the instruments turned red. The alarms sounded like a ghost's wail. The radiation dose exceeded the standard. Engineer Zeno Vive's voice was trembling. It's a high-energy particle stream." The data on the screen jumped crazily. The Geiger counter rattled like a machine gun. "The main system is gone. The backup system is also burnt out." Mechanic Bikovsky shouted. "There's only the isotope battery left. The power won't last long." Space Station Dr. Koshnarenko suddenly covered his chest, with blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. "We're all exposed. The dose exceeds 5,000 rads. There's no hope." The calls from the ground control center sounded like mourning. Don't. Evacuate quickly. The American Zeus can pick you up." But Volchev smiled. An uglier smile than crying. "Let us stay. Anyway, we can be the eyes of humanity and take a few more looks at this damned thing." Later, people found the last passage in the space station's recorder. "The light outside is like God opening his eyelids. The earth is below, as blue as a gemstone. What a pity. I won't see the children grow up. On this side of the earth, the radiation has begun to take effect." Adults suddenly felt itchy all over. Their skin felt like it had been rubbed with sandpaper. Some started to lose their hair, a handful at a time. A friend of Zhang Chun's who worked as a nurse in the hospital called, with a trembling voice, "Zhang Chun, quickly take the children and hide." Adults seem to be unable to bear it. But the children are okay. Zhang Chun's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, she remembered what Glasses had said about the uncertainty. She rushed to the school, pried open the door of the graduating class's classroom, and called out the children hiding under the desks, "Come with me to the basement." The children followed her Mongdai Lai. Some were still asking, "Teacher, don't we need to carry our school bags? Will there still be an exam tomorrow?" Zhang Chun didn't have the energy to answer. She just tightened her grip on the emergency light. The light beam swayed in the dark like a trembling chopstick. In the basement, she lit a candle and watched the children's faces flicker in the flame. A little boy asked in a low voice, "Teacher, where are my parents?" Zhang Chun's throat tightened. She thought for a long time before saying, They are watching over us in the sky. We have to live well, or they'll be sad." But she herself didn't know whether these words could deceive the child, and for how long. The light of the dead star shone in the sky for more than an hour, before slowly dimming. But the gift it left had just begun to take effect. The next day, the children walked out of the basement and found that the world had changed. Green glowing clouds floated in the sky, like a big, half-melted mint candy. The grass on the ground, the stones, even their own clothes, all glowed faintly in the dark. Walking outside was like falling into a bucket of fluorescent paint. A child shouted excitedly, "We've become fireflies." But adults were getting more and more strange. Zhang Chun saw Uncle Jiang, who was usually very fierce on the street, crying by the roadside, holding a family photo in his hand. The photo was wrinkled by his tears. There was a long queue at the hospital entrance, and the crying could be heard 3 streets away. What on earth is going on? Huahua scratched his head and asked, with fluorescent powder still on his face, looking like a little kitten. Glasses pushed his glasses. With a pale face, "Maybe it's that supernova. Its radiation has damaged the genes of adults, but has no effect on us kids. What will happen to the adults?" Xiao Meng asked us anxiously, with a trembling voice. Glasses didn't say a word. He just looked up at the sky. Where it was deathly pale yesterday, there was now a faint circle of red light, like a smear of blood in the sky. At this time, someone noticed something even stranger. The northern lights had come to Beijing. Green and red light belts twisted in the sky, like a group of dancing ribbons. They dyed half of the night sky colorful. The old people said it was a good omen, but the children felt creeped out. Such beautiful light, but it looked like God was sneering. More troubles were yet to come. Communication was completely cut off. The phone couldn't get through. There was only snow on the TV. Even the radio only had a hissing sound. The tap water also stopped. The children had to carry buckets to the river to fetch water. The river water was green, with something floating on it that they didn't know what it was. Some children started to grab things. In the supermarket, the adults watched feebly, but the children with red eyes grabbed biscuits and canned food. Some even fought. Zheng Chun tried to stop them, but was pushed to the ground by a half-grown child. She touched her belly and suddenly felt nauseous. "This can't go on." She got up and shouted, Although her voice was not loud, it made the surroundings quiet for a moment. We are students. We have to follow the rules. But no one listened to her. A child made a face at her. Teacher, the adults don't care about us anymore. Don't meddle in other people's business. Zen Chun looked at these once obedient children and suddenly felt empty inside. She seemed to understand a little. What's more terrible than a disaster is that people's hearts are scattered. A few days after the dead star disappeared, there was a new thing in the sky. A blue glowing nebula, like a big rose, slowly unfolding in the night sky. Astronomers later named it the Rose Nebula, saying that it was the dust left after the explosion of the dead star, lit up by the energy of the neutron star. The children lay on the roof at night and looked at it. The blue light shone on their faces, like a thin layer of ice. Will it always accompany us? Xiao Meng asked. Hua mumbled with half a biscuit in his mouth. Definitely. From now on, it'll be our star. Glasses didn't say a word. He just drew something in his notebook. Zeng Chun leaned over to look, and found Tuzi had drawn a big hourglass, with the sand slowly trickling down. What is this? She asked. A countdown, Glasses said in a soft voice. The adults may not have much time left. Zen Chun's heart was pricked like by a needle. She suddenly thought of her unborn baby, thought of the children still crying for their parents, thought of the cold rose nebula in the sky. She didn't know. This sun in the night sky was just the beginning. The real test was still waiting for these children. When the last adult closes his eyes, how will they prop up this mess? Will they grow wildly like weeds, or disappear like dewdrops? You must have thought. In the following story, the children have to learn to make their own decisions, without the protection of adults, and without ready-made answers. They can only fumble in the dark, even if they get bruised and bloodied. And that Rose Nebula is like a cold spectator, watching all this in the sky. It has witnessed the birth and death of too many stars, and probably also thinks the joys and sorrows of humanity don't really matter much. That's the end of this chapter. If you like it, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Shiju. See you in the next video.